items, equipment, the stuff that gives you stats. Whatever you want to call them, they are incredibly important in order to win games in SUPERVIVE, but they can also be just as confusing for new players. So let's discuss what items do for you, what you should be looking to build for, and the complexities of the new upgrading systems. But before we do, if I can teach you this whole system, I'm sure I could teach you a bunch of other stuff in SUPERVIVE, so make sure to stick around and smash that subscribe button. Let's get started. Upon playing a game of SUPERVIVE, you'll notice that you have a bunch of different slots next to your character portrait. 2 are for different pieces of equipment, 1 is for your boots, and 1 is for your armor. Today, we will be strictly talking about the 2 slots for your equipment, and a little bit about boots, and skipping armor for simplicity's sake. How do you get equipment though? The most common way is to defeat mobs around the map. Upon defeating a mob, they drop mini shards on the ground that slowly upgrade your base items that evolve into what you choose. You can also purchase specific equipment at green rarity around the map at certain shops for 2,000 gold each. Now that we know how to get equipment, let's discuss the different types of equipment that are in the game. A piece of equipment can come in one of 2 forms: blades and helmets. Blades will always give some kind of damage buff, while helmets will always give some kind of health buff. Whether you spawn in with 2 blades, 2 helmets, or 1 of each is selected at the start of the game via damage, tank, and hybrid options. However, that is just one half of the puzzle. There are also different typings to the equipment that give additional stats. These include tech, mana, vampiric, and quicker bladed. Tech items reduce cooldown times. Mana items increase mana regen and overall mana. Vampiric items give lifesteal, and quick and bladed items give move speed alongside damage. Alright, let's take a deep breath and put it all together. Using the knowledge we now know about blades, helmets, and typings, this should be much simpler. Let's run through some examples. If I find a helmet and it has the tech type, what will it do? It will give me bonus health and reduce my cooldown times. If I find a blade and it has the mana type, it will give me bonus damage to my abilities and grant mana regen as well as more total mana. This will take time to understand and get comfortable with, so don't beat yourself up if it doesn't make sense at this moment. Ask questions in the comments if you're lost. Alright, so now we kind of know what is going on with the base equipment that you have in the game, at least I hope. Now let's talk about how to upgrade our loadout when we get it. There are currently 7 tiers an item can be: gray, white, green, blue, purple, orange, and red, or exotic. With each upgrade, you'll get a little bit more mileage out of your item with stat increases that go along with what it initially gives. At blue rarity though, things get spicy. But let's wait a little bit before we discuss that. The easiest way to upgrade your equipment is by killing more mobs as a team and picking up more and more shards to upgrade your equipment over time. Another way to upgrade your equipment though is by defeating enemy players. Upon sending someone to a box after downing them, you should be granted 1 power-up shard. If you manage to kill the entire team, you will get a mega shard that gives everyone on your team 1 upgrade shard. Upgrade shards can be dropped to other teammates. This detail might not sound important, but trust me, it can get crazy, because recall that at blue rarity, things get, and I quote, spicy. When you get a piece of equipment to blue rarity, you get to choose from 1 of 3 passives that is unique to the item itself. Okay, but what the hell does that mean? Currently in SUPERVIVE, there are 8 different items you can pick up, including boots. That means that if each one has its own 3 paths to choose from, there are a total of 24 unique abilities you have to look out for. In other words, it gets really complex really quickly, and because this is such a new system, the best players don't really know what the best passives are yet, especially since it changes from patch to patch, but it's important that you go through and find the stuff that you want. The best way to do this is to go to the Learn tab within the main menu and read the passives of the equipment that you are most likely to pick up and go from there, at least for starters. So for example, on Zeph, I am almost always going to be running my trusty Mana Blade and Tech Blade combo. Using this knowledge, I'm going to go to the Learn tab and read through their passives. Currently, I like to rock Mana Bubble Blade or Mind Blade and Tech Time Shearing Blade or the Vault Blade if my team is planning on opening a bunch of vaults up, as they synergize really well with Zeph's overall kit. This is the fun part though. Maybe it isn't how you want to play the character, and you can build the character how you want to. Not only that, but you can also change it every game depending on what you were up against. It is absolutely crazy what you can do in this game with items now. The main questions you want to ask yourself when you are creating a build for a character includes, what do I want to accomplish with my character's base kit? What items will help me achieve accomplishing that? And lastly, what passives will allow me to take this a step further. If you want to get a better idea of a base loadout for your kit, I will link a bunch of streamers in the comments that all play different characters so that you can go ask them when they are live what they run and why. Just know that this is an evolving concept and could change over time. All right, we're going to start off our conversation with items, starting with the mana helmet. First off with Glacial Comet, which essentially whenever you hit something with a non-LMB ability, it's just going to create this huge glob explosion that does damage after the fact, as you can see here. It's nothing crazy. It's pretty self-explanatory. I personally think there's better options in the mana helmet department, even though they're not crazy options. But let's move on to that next option, which is going to be the Scholar. Looks like I'm actually going to have to drop this first. The Scholar pretty much just gives you stats over time, mostly health. Every minute you get an additional 10 HP plus mana, which isn't really all that crazy. The big thing I want to say about Scholar is that it does mesh really well with a bladed helmet, Helm of Giganticism, which we'll get to later, which essentially gives you more damage the more health, bonus health you have. The thing is with this one that I do want to say is that it takes 8 minutes for it to get to max stacks. So you really need to get this early in the game if you're going to be playing for those max stacks. And then the last evolution we're going to go over for mana helmets is the Ambush, which deals an additional damage to armor. And if you're in a bush, it does 3 times the amount of damage to armor, as you can see on this tooltip here. It does eventually make you a bush. I've never actually used this item before because I just feel like there's better archetypes. But as you can see here, you become a bush and then you're going to do a lot more damage to armor. I mean, it doesn't look that fast, but in all reality, this is pretty darn fast. Like if I take this off, I mean, the amount of damage I'm doing to armor, you can see it's significantly diminished. I think this is one of the better options that people are kind of sleeping on, but I also don't think it's the best in slot. I think there's better items, which we're going to go over now, specifically with tech helms. All right, so for Guardian's Respite, which is the first tech helm, I'm actually going to use Oath because it shows a little bit better of what I'm trying to tell you. Essentially what this tech helm does, if I can open the shop, is it's going to give you an additional 15% max HP shield whenever you use it that will regenerate when you're out of combat. It doesn't sound that crazy, but when you have it on a character like Oath that has a lot of toughness, and essentially that's like a hidden stat that gives you more HP off of these helmet items, when you have that, it's actually pretty darn substantial. I don't know if I can actually show you exactly how much it is. I mean, whoa, you just saw that? That's an 800 shield. That is an 800 HP shield simply for just putting the helmet on. So I personally use this right now with Rampage with Oath. I think it's pretty strong. I could see on other characters it not being that great, but that's characters like Zeph and Aluna that you shouldn't really be running helmets on anyways, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. Now, the next one is actually really good on a character like Shiv. I don't know if it's exactly best in slot for Shiv. I know in the past it's been pretty good, but that is the tech helm, the Vive Infuser, which just gives you crazy regeneration out of combat. Every dash you do gives you 3% of your max HP, and then an additional 3% of your max HP over time. It just regenerates you. It's really good on a character that's going to dash a lot, that's going to get in there a lot, and that is exactly what Shiv is. Are you willing to give up damage on Shiv, though, for extra health? I think there's better options, personally. I can talk to other Shiv players. They say, I mean, it's not bad. It just depends on what you specifically want, and I feel like most other Shiv players want more damage. But hey, if you're struggling to hit a lot of shots, maybe just don't play Shiv, but maybe this is a good option for you. I'm not sure. Now, this brings us to the last tech helm option, which I wish it was better. And that is the Soulbound, which essentially just tethers yourself to a close ally. They take 25% less damage. There's no real need to show you here now. They take 25% less damage, but then that damage is then spread to you. I just don't. I think this item is almost like just don't run it. Just never run this item. There's always better options. Let's move on to the bladed helmets. All right, so now we're going to be talking about the bladed helms, and I love bladed helms. They're probably my favorite type of item in the game. The first one being the Helm of Giganticism, which gives you more AP equal to how much bonus health you have, which is really nice on tankier characters like Oath, and I'm an Oath player, so it makes sense. This item I absolutely adore. I think it's really good, even just standalone. It gives you a lot of extra AP. It's a pub stompy kind of item. I still like the Guardian's Respite, which was the first tech helm we talked about, a little bit more than this. But I mean, this is not a bad option, especially if you want to be a little bit tankier, but don't want to give up on that bonus damage either. You still want to have some punch, which I think is really important on tanky characters. So all in all, I think this is an option that's good and shouldn't be slept on. Moving on though to the next bladed helm, which I need to be reminded exactly what that is. Oh, that is greed, which we actually need to go pick up some gold on the side as well. All right, so now that we have gold on the ground, we are going to be going over greed, which at the start is just a basic bladed helm, at least to my knowledge, with a little bit better of stats. But as you can see, when you consume 400 gold, it goes to one upgraded version. 8,000 after that, it goes to another upgraded version. We're going to check what those stats exactly are right now. It used to be really good. Greed used to be really good in the past. This is actually after just one stack, I believe. As you can see, this generates a lot more stats, and I think could be really good on specific characters. The problem is with greed is like there's always that possibility that you don't get exactly what you want, because at the end of the game, then you're 12k gold down. You could have gotten jump pads, you could have gotten other armors. It does kind of mess your team up a bit, but on some characters, I mean, look at this. You're getting mana regen, you're getting omnivamp, you're getting move speed to the max. You're getting a lot of good stats out of this. I think it's an okay option. It's just realistically, you have to know, your team has to know that this is what you're going for. I think it used to be really good. It's not as OP now. People are still kind of sleeping on it. Not a terrible idea. It's good to know it exists. Definitely better if you go to Cold Fang. Outside of that, there's, I think, just better options still, which leads us to our last one, which is Perseverance on the Bladed Helm, which after 3 seconds of being in combat for a prolonged period of time, your next LMB is going to essentially heal you for 2% of your max HP and deal 2% of the max HP of your enemy. And then after that, it's going to give you 3 bonus HP, 3 points, which sounds really good, but in all actuality, it's really kind of whatever, because I don't really know what this is trying to be. I think what it's trying to do is it's trying to make you just super, super tanky. But if I wanted to be super, super tanky, I probably would have picked a Tech or Mana Helm. I could see this being okay on Felix. I just think it's a little bit underwhelming right now, because realistically, you're probably going to get on average maybe like 100 to 150 max HP from these stacks by the end of the game. It's just too hard to make this really good. I just think there's going to always be better options, and that's just that for the bladed helmets. I mean, Giganticism being one of them, and then maybe the greed as well. But all right, let's move on to Mana Blades. Mana Blades are essential in SUPERVIVE. I think they're probably the most used items in the game, and because of that, they have some pretty interesting evolutions. Now, the first one is Mind Blade. It was a little confusing to me at first, but essentially when you land non-LMB abilities on any hunter, it's just going to give you a lot of mana until you get to 10 stacks. And then on that 10th stack, it's going to transform into Apotheosis, which is going to give you AP equal to how much mana you're getting boosted. It is just, in my opinion, this is the safe option. It's one that you're easily going to be able to build on really any character, like Zeph especially. You can literally just right-click people, and it's going to eventually give you Apotheosis. I think it's a very safe option if you're not able to proc Rampage. And Rampage is the second one, the second Mana Blade evolution, which basically just means whenever you cast an ability or hit someone with an M1, it's going to grant you a stack of Rampage. When you get to 10 stacks, you get plus 50 AP. Yes, plus 50 AP. The thing is, it's going to decay after every 3 seconds, which I'm going to show you right now. You see on the right side of the screen, you get 1 stack of Rampage. It's already gone. Bam. 1 stack of Rampage, it's already gone. The big thing is, though, like other items, not like other items, I should say, you don't get the 50 AP right away. You don't get like 5 AP and it shortly ramps up. No, you have to have all 10 stacks of your Rampage to get that AP that we just saw on the bottom right. That being said, if your character's like Oath and can just spam the shield like this and just keep your Rampage stacks the whole time, I mean, it's going to be pretty darn good. This is plus 50 AP that a lot of other characters are not able to maintain or keep. The thing is, characters like Zeph, I don't like running Rampage anymore because I just do not see myself fighting for that prolonged of a period where Mind Blade isn't just going to be a better option. I think some characters, it could be really good, like maybe Shiv, if you really feel like you're going to be hitting those M1s and dashes. I think Rampage is still really good. A character like Oath, if they don't patch this out of the game and you can just do that quick before a fight and just keep doing this to keep Rampage, I think it's a really good item. I think it's the best item in the game. If you're not able to do that, though, you're going to have to look for another option. That leads us to our last of the Mana Blades, which is going to be Bubble Blade, which I'm actually going to go to Zeph to show you this one. It pretty much just gives you a 25% shield on every heal that you apply, as I don't know if you can actually do it to self. I think it's only if you can actually heal a teammate. To my team, then you see it actually just gives you a little bit of a shield. I think this item is kind of trash, I'm gonna be realistic. Thank you, Weedle. I appreciate that. I think this item is kind of trash compared to other options you have, because the other thing is Mind Blade, which was going to give you more AP, is going to scale with your healing, and it's actually going to give more healing than what the shield gives you effectively. Because of that, I think Bubble Blade is pretty underwhelming. I think there's just better options. That being said, maybe if you want to run like a tank build on Oath, maybe you could get away with running a Bubble Blade and it does more. But to be honest, Rampage is just going to be better on Oath because you can kill the enemies first. Now that we're done with Mana Blades, again, these are evolutions that you're going to be using all the time. So if there's any evolutions you want to learn, it's definitely the mana ones. But we're going to move on to the Tech Blade. Now, the first one of the Tech Blades, it's really simple to understand. Abilities, like the Nade, are going to empower your M1 to throw out a missile whenever you might not have seen it there. To throw out a missile whenever you launch it at someone. It does 23 damage. It's barely anything. It's kind of whatever. There's better options. It's really simple to understand. Sure, if you just want to pub stomp people, okay. But Interweaver, I would steer clear of that one. Instead of Interweaver, I would say you should definitely get Power User, which reduces all of the power cooldowns you have by 10%. And then does that by an additional 10% for every vault that you open. 2 other vaults can be opened to make it, I think, 30% cooldown reduction on all of your powers. That standalone, that's max stacks, is already insane because you're already going to be opening those vaults anyways, or at least you should be. Then on top of that, when you do get those additional 2 stacks from opening 2 vaults, your powers are now soulbound. That means if you die, you do not lose your powers. That might not sound crazy if you're just starting playing the game, but that is game breaking the higher you go, because people will take fights against you that they think they can win if they see a power you have that they want, and they're going to int on you. But then when you die, it doesn't matter, because guess what? You get to keep your powers that are broken, and they still have to play against that in the final circle. This is an item that should be taken out of the game. If there's a dev watching this, I personally hate this item. And I think there's a lot of other people that hate this item too, because it simply just breaks the game. If you need a tech item, you need a tech blade, and you're not sure which one to pick, Power User is definitely a very good option. Now, there's another option that's pretty good, and that is the Amplifier. I'm going to show you guys this item on Ghost. Abilities refresh 5% faster each time you use them until you use another ability. So the big thing with Amplifier is it makes one ability absolutely insane. The big thing that people do with this is they max out Ghost's E and just keep shooting it at people, which eventually, when it's at 10 stacks, has a crazy low cooldown. The problem with this is that you're going to run into problems with mana, because you're going to just keep using your railgun laser, as you'll see maybe at the end of this. You're going to keep using your railgun. Eventually, you're going to run out of mana. People get over this hump either by running like Apotheosis, which I don't recommend. I still think you should run something different than that. But they typically do it with these boots called meditation boots that when you stand still, you just gain mana over time. That's typically what people do for this. I mean, look at this. This is, what is this cooldown? Like, boys. If your character has something to abuse and you want to just use meditation boots, use Amplifier. That is the power of Amplifier. Regardless, I still think Amplifier is a little bit more balanced than Power User. I think this Power User, it's just straight up insane. I'm gonna be completely honest. It is straight up insane. But all right, now we're moving away from the Tech Blades. We're going to be moving into the Vamp Blade category, which I don't have a lot of experience with. So I did talk to a lot of others about what they think is good and bad, because I don't play characters that typically use Omnivamp. But we've came to a consensus. First off, Swift Blade, moving and attacking builds up charges. At 100 charges, your next attack is pretty much just an Exodia attack. This is really good, honestly, really on anyone. Specifically on Shiv, I've been told it's really good because you're just going to keep hitting M1s and it's just going to keep going crazy mode. The other thing is that this essentially is just saying your first shot of every fight is going to be insane. Because, I mean, you're probably going to take 100 steps before you're going to take a team fight in the Skylands. That's just how this game works. The thing is that then you hit the shot, it's going to then be one shot that you hit every single time, at least on Shiv, is then going to give you a stack. It's pretty consistent, all things considered. Like, you're going to be getting this pretty fast. It's a nice item. I think there's better options, but it's not a bad option. So characters like Shiv, maybe Felix, I think this could be okay. But the thing is that Speaking of Felix, while this is a decent option, I should say, it's still not quite the best. And I think the best option now with the new item they just added is Last Stand. When you're below 40% HP, you're going to have an additional 5% Omnivamp. And you're also going to get 50% bonus healing from all sources, which this is 40% HP, boys. This is insanity because, I mean, the amount of times that I have a Felix that is below 40% HP is quite significant. Now, there's one more that I do want to cover for the Vamp Blades, which is going to be Overdrive. It gives you just a base 3% more Omnivamp than all of the other evolutions do. But on top of this, when you're at full health, you're going to get a shield based on how much damage you do with that Omnivamp overheal. So I think this is going to be really good on characters like Shrike. Again, I'm not a Shrike player. I could just be completely trolling you guys, but I see this being okay on a character like Shrike, okay on characters that aren't going to be taking damage a lot on their own, and more so going to be taking just engagements from afar, want a little bit of an extra shield off of all the Omnivamp they're going to be doing. Maybe it's not great on Shrike, maybe I'm overhyping this one, but at the same time, I see Last Stand, and I'm just like, that's pretty strong. That's pretty strong. But okay, we're going to be moving on. We're going to be moving on to the Quick Blade evolutions, which are very commonly used across a bunch of different players in the community. First up, we are going to be talking about Grace. Grace grants you 50%, not 50%, 50 just flat out movement speed when you're at full health, which is really good for characters like Zeph, for Luna, for characters that can heal themselves. I mean, look how much faster I'm going to be running now compared to if I don't have it. I'm super slow when I don't have my Grace, but now when I pick it up, I'm going to be much faster. The thing is, typically on these characters, they're going to be able to keep themselves alive for a whole lot longer than others. You're going to want to have like tech items that are going to continuously keep you up in terms of in the fight, like having a lower cooldown on your heal and your nade. Typically, that's what you're going to want. What I do want to try, though, is maybe since I do get mana back on my M1s, if I hit all my M1s, maybe I can get away with running Grace instead of an Apotheosis. There's a possibility if I'm the GOAT, I can do that. That is pretty much what I'm looking at for that item with this character. Again, this could be just completely just bonkers. I'm not quite sure. The next one that is really good for a lot of different DPS players is Big Game Hunter. You gain 5 movement speed for every boss you kill. And for every major boss you kill, you get 3 times as much as that. Okay, what is a boss though? A boss is your normal biome leaders that drop powers after you kill all of the mobs. A major boss would be your Vanegrove boss, your Prisma Falls boss, your Soul bosses, your Abyssal boss at the very end. All of those bosses are major bosses. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way though, when you get to 15 movement speed, you gain AP equal to all of your bonus movement speed you have. And this can keep going up as well, by the way, because if you keep killing biome bosses, you're going to keep getting move speed, and it's going to keep compounding. And by the end of the game, you should at least be able to proc this passive and get a lot of AP out of it. The last one we're going to show off on Shiv, which is going to be Turbo Booster. After using a movement ability, you gain 50 decaying move speed for 2 seconds. Why is this really good? Well, Shiv is just going to keep getting her movement speed up because she can just continue dashing and hitting M1s. And like when you can keep doing it again and again and again and again, you don't need to be max HP. This is just Grace, but you can just keep proccing it on a character like Shiv. Also, I've been told by Wicca, aka Bernice, aka the GOAT, I've been told that this is actually really good on Bishop as well, on other hunters that have a lot of dashes, considering the fact that, I mean, you get to pretty much just choose when you want to run really fast because you have 3 dashes. I mean, I'm sure it would also be pretty decent on Brawl, although I am not a Brawl enthusiast like Giant Chipperal may be, so maybe I'm coping, so maybe going to his stream for that one. But I could see it being really good on any character that dashes a lot too, but I can specifically see the synergy that it's going to have with a character like Shiv. Now, I think that is all of the actual equipment that we can go over. Now we're going to be looking at the boots, which I can't show you guys the boots in practice because for some reason we're not allowed to do that. They're just not active in practice range. You can't just buy them. So we're going to go to the Learn tab and just talk about the boots. So chain jump is pretty much going to be your standard one. After a 3-jump combo, like you're playing Mario, you get a really big jump that can get you up to red high grounds. It's good. I think it's going to be your solid all-around good pick. It's going to be good on any character. There's no real downside to it. The next one is Soul Drain, where stomping or executing wisps is going to give you 150 HP per second. It sounds kind of crazy, but most of the time I feel like enemy teams aren't just going to let you stomp a wisp for free. And if you do stomp a wisp, you probably have already won the fight. So I'm not too sure how I feel about that one. I think it could be really good. It could be really bad. Just look out for it. But the one that I think a lot of people are going to use outside of chain jump is probably going to be meditation. When you're standing still, you're going to get crazy movement speed for yourself and all allies in a nearby distance. To be honest, this is really good with those amplifier builds we were talking about with Ghost earlier, and will be decent for other characters as well. I personally just prefer the chain jump. The problem is that chain jump doesn't let you hop on Zeph right now. I really hope they fix that eventually, or else I'm just never going to be able to jump on high grounds, which is really annoying. But all in all, I mean, that covers all of the items, every single one we've talked about today. These will change throughout beta, throughout launch. I assume so, because there's some outliers, like Interweaver isn't great, Perseverance is Bubble Blade, you know, like I could even see Grace being kind of definitely soulbound. Like there's always that one option that's just kind of like it's okay. There's a lot of other options though that are just clear winners all day, every day. So I was editing the video and I realized I actually left a few things out, and that was the exotic items. To be honest, there's not a whole lot that you're missing. First off, there's one in the item slot that is Endless Reaper. It's pretty much just a Vamp Blade that your knocks reset all of your non-ultimate abilities. Personally, I feel like this item is kind of whatever because it's so rare to get. You can only really get it from the Vanegrove boss, Prisma Falls boss, or a supply drop, and to be honest, it's not really worth building around when there's Last Stand in the game, and that's pretty strong. The other one is Soul Stealer, which each time you get a kill or assist on a unique enemy hero, you get 5 ability power, and it loses 1 soul every time you die. To be honest, it's still just a Vamp Blade with an okay effect. You have to get it really early in the game for anything to really happen out of it. I just feel like there's better options to build around. I'm not upset if I'm Shiv and I pick this up maybe, but on other characters it's like kind of whatever. But the one exotic item that I do want to point out to you guys is the glide boots. These are really good. Every time that you glide, you gain a speed boost when it's at full gas. So pretty much what you can do is you can glide, get the boost, drop, glide, get the boost, drop. I've been using it a lot actually in the first day of ranked. It's gotten me a lot of kill points. But aside from that, that is all the exotic items that you really have to worry about. I'm not too sure about this airstrike. I haven't really seen it yet, but for all things considered, we're good on the exotic items now. Take away that your equipment is like a multiplier to your character. It multiplies the value you are going to be able to provide in a fight for your team. If you don't know how to play your character, you aren't going to know the best items to use, even if you are using the quote-unquote meta build. 100 times 0 is still 0. So don't get too caught up in the items and take it one step at a time. Learn what each of the base items do, then look into passives, and then try to make your own build or truly understand the one that you are using. I hope this video did a good enough job to teach you all the basics of equipment. There was a lot that I left out for simplicity's sake, but this is a great starting point I wish I had when I first started playing the game a year ago. As always, ask questions if you were confused, either in the Discord or live on Twitch at twitch.tv/PazSwagger. But until next time, I've got to peace out and Paz out. I'll see you in the next one.